can move on to giving him a bath. So what you want to do is, like, you want to soak up a towel. Guinea pigs typically don't like to be put in water suddenly, so you just kind of want to, like, you know, gradually, like, lather him with some water so he doesn't get spooked. Make sure you get a brush designed for guinea pigs. Can't use any dog brushes. I wouldn't recommend like a comb that would be too sharp for him. Anything with soft bristles.
So going deeper into what's affected, agriculture is completely dependent on bee pollination and the bee population being around. Crops, flowers, trees, they're constantly being sprayed with pesticides and other types of herbicides that are non-selective, meaning that it's like Roundup. Roundup is a non-selective herbicide, meaning that any plant matter comes in contact with, it'll kill it. They have non-selective pesticides as well, which aren't good, and they kill off the bees and butterflies. How you can help bees? Not using pesticides is a huge way that you can help bees and keep bees from dying and the populations from lowering. Another great way, bee gardens. A bee garden can be something as simple as a little a window box full of flowers. It could be a small or large plot of land that you cultivate and put to the side specifically for pollinators. When you're making these bee gardens, it's important to stay away from hybridized flowers and flowers that are specifically made to not to last, because what pollination does is it ends that flower's life cycle, and it causes the flower to die. So if there's no pollen for the bees to collect, then the flower lives, and that's pretty much that's just a hybridized flower. There's not a lot of pollen with it. So this is an example of like a large plot of land that you can put aside for pollinators, which can be like butterflies, bees, other small insects that fly around during the summer, and it's like they flowers. I can show you just a simple way to make a bee garden. So really with bee gardens, again, you can make them in a box or a windowsill or outside. I can just show you how to simply make it in a box. And you can really use any sort of flower as long as it's part of the season. So like a good flower around this time of year are mums. So with the window box or just a box, you need the box, plastic liner, which can either be like, we have cellophane, which is a thin plastic sheet. You can take a tarp, just something to make sure that the soil doesn't fall through. You need soil, you can get it any sort of bag, but it needs to be wet to maintain that water. And then you need your flowers. You gotta take your plastic liner, you have to line the box, fill it up with soil, and put the plants in. With this, because they are already put in pots, you don't have to transplant them. It's better not to really transplant them whenever it's this time of year, because it is later in the season, it is getting cold. So this is something more to do during the springtime, during the summertime when it's warm, when the bees are more active. And really it's something fun to do.
starting your bouquet, you're gonna want to start with some greens. For this, we have some seeded eucalyptus, which I like because it's not just green, it gives you a little bit more texture with the seeds in it. And with this, it's like kind of messy with the stem, so what you can do is just take off the extra pieces that you don't need. Just kind of clean it up a little bit to make it easier to work with. Okay, and what I like to do is kind of make a grid in my hands, so when you put in the flowers, they stay in the spot that you want, and they're not just kind of wobbling around when you put them in. So once you have your greens, you can always add more greens later. I like to add greens last, it's kind of like a collar on it too. But then you can just start adding your flowers, and you want to just have like a loose grip so you can kind of put flowers wherever you want. And I like to start with the mass flowers too, to just kind of get a basic shape going. And then with flowers like this, the Xanthus, like I just cut this off. You don't have to just put the stem in as a whole. You can kind of manipulate the pieces and make it however you want.
So how long would flowers like this last for?
If you keep it in water, the roses and the Lisianthus, they hold up pretty well. I'd say probably at least a week if they're taken care of. And that, if you reprocess them, so cutting them at an angle and putting them back in warm water, that always helps, and that will make them last even longer. And if they're stored in a cool location too. And another thing I like to do when I'm designing, so right now I just have all these roses in a line. What kind of makes it look more like wild, more not so planned out, is if you create kind of a triangle with the flowers, it makes it look more natural. And then also putting them at a different height. So this is the Xanthus, it's up a little bit higher. It's not all just flat. And another thing that's good to add too, like these are just the parts of the Lisianthus. They're not bloomed yet, but it still adds like a different texture into there. So you can always use that even though it's not flowering yet. And then if you want to fix flowers, I don't want to just grab this rose because that would damage the petals. So you're going to find the stem in there, and then you can rise it and lower it while grabbing the stem so you don't damage the flower. And also, this is bothering me because there's like a lot on it. So you can just kind of cut off the pieces that you don't want. And then once you've achieved your desired look, you can start wrapping it. So what I like to do is just make sure, again, all the leaves are off of it because that gets in the way of the wrapping process. So for this, we're just going to use our floral tape, and this sticks to itself when it's stretched out. So you want to wrap it really tight so nothing moves around, and of course so it sticks to itself. And this, I think, is like the hardest part sometimes. So what I like to do is I like to just twist the bouquet and kind of hold the tape. Everyone kind of has a different way of doing it. And you don't have to go down too far on this, you just want to, depending on how You're gonna hold it. If you want really long stems, then you can wrap it a little bit longer. And then you can trim up your stems. And before I put it in the water, I'm gonna give it another fresh cut. I'm just cutting them now, so it's easier for me to wrap it in the ribbon, and I don't have all these long stems in my way. And the ribbon is optional, but most people like to add ribbon because it just kind of covers up the stems and the green tape, which isn't always the most appealing look. And the ribbon, you can like do whatever color you think goes with this, so I just grabbed white. And how you want to wrap it is you just cover the base once, and then you're going to slowly move down and overlap. Otherwise, you get the bottom kind of sticking out in a weird way. So you just want to overlap it a little bit when you're wrapping it. And the other thing with ribbon, you want to choose a higher quality ribbon like this one, instead of just the stuff that you get at like the dollar store, because that, if you put it in the water, it'll just get ruined. If it's white, it'll turn kind of green or yellow depending on the stems in there. So the higher quality ribbon, the better it's going to hold up in the water and the better it's going to look after a while. So I'm just going to grab the scissors and cut it. And what I like to do with this frayed edge is I just kind of tuck it underneath so you don't see it. And then pins. These come in all different shapes, sizes, colors. I just grabbed these pearl ones. And you want to stick it in at an angle so it gets the stems and it holds the ribbon in place. And I usually do about 3 just to make sure it holds. And then I'm going to give it another fresh cut. And then you can also use, they have cutters for these, and you basically just put it in and then it slices it all at once. But for this, I'm just going to give it all cut the same length and then put it right into the water.
backfill the back of the wall with all dirt, and then put the plants in, and then put mulch down in the back. I know it's probably not that noticeable, but we actually had to go back in there and put the mulch in. And she actually went to the nursery to get the plants for us and everything. Any other questions?
You have to drain it for the winter so it doesn't freeze, or is that?
We actually take this apart after fall show, so it doesn't stay like this. Because next year we do something different.
First one we'll start off with is with real estate or structural inspection. So drones can be used to inspect structurally. It's a lot more efficient to do it that way. Well, you have to go through a whole course through the FAA, which is the Federal Aviation Administration. So I don't have my license yet. I'm not a commercial pilot, so I've just done some flying around the school. But Mr. B back there has his license. Our two teachers have it. I believe the vice principal, Mr. Higgins, also has his commercial license.